Welcome, Mrs. Vellis. All right, good evening, everyone. Just inviting our attendees to join the meeting, so welcome. We'll give it a moment for our attendees to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, it looks like we have, looks like it's settling down here in terms of the number of attendees joining here. And if I could just ask people to mute if you're not speaking, that would be helpful. Our panelists, I mean. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you to our attendees for joining us, to our panelists for being here this evening. I'm Lynn Feeney-Hetton, Superintendent, and we are ready to get started here tonight with our February 17th regular board meeting. Thank you for taking the time to join us, and I will turn it over to Mr. Katanis.
Thank you, Ms. Feeney-Hetton. Welcome, everybody. As Lynn just stated, it's nice having you with us again, and I hope everybody's staying safe between COVID and the snow. So that being said, pursuant to Board Policy 1B5, all meetings of the Salisbury Township School District are audio and video recorded. The district disclaims any and all liability arising from the recording of meetings and for any statements made by those in attendance. Okay, let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to call to order. I'll call this meeting to order. And with that, I'd like a roll call, please.
All right, Mr. DeFrank.
Here.
Ms. Frick.
Here.
Mr. Katanis.
Here.
Ms. Glenister.
Here.
Mr. Ganal.
Here.
Mr. Hattinger.
Here.
Klinger. I see you there. I can't hear you, but I'll check you off. Is
You
there?
broke up, Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Okay, there you go. And Ms. Bennett
Here.
and Ms. Ziegler.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to student representatives report. This is one of my favorite parts of the meeting. And we'll be starting with 8th grade students. And the first student will be Alana. And she's in 8th grade. And Cameron, Alana Kemmer and Cameron Kabinski. Correct me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. So we'll be starting with Alana, please.
Hello and good evening. We are representatives from the Salisbury Student Council. I'm Alana.
I'm Cameron Kabinski. To start off, prior to our return to in-person school, Student Council hosted a virtual bingo during the late fall and early winter, where prizes were delivered to the students' home if they won bingo. The prizes consisted of different gift cards from food places and restaurants, such as the Udder Bar and the Pizza Hut.
We also did grade-wide cahoots, which were held after certain days during the Virtual Spirit Week. The Virtual Spirit Week included PJ Day, Sports Day, Favorite Color Day, and Holiday Spirit Day. Between then and the middle school going back to face-to-face, no events happened in between.
When we first returned, we did a Salisbury Super Bowl where we had students vote on who they thought would win the Super Bowl. About 36% thought Tampa Bay would win and 64% thought Kansas City would win. All students and staffs wore their favorite sports attire, whether they were face-to-face or virtual. Also on the first day back.
5th, 6th, and 7th graders have recess and breaks daily to give them a break from their mask. We 8th graders also have regular mask breaks during the day to stretch our legs and get fresh air, but 8th grade does not get a recess due to our language classes.
The student council has some other events planned for St. Patrick's Day, and we are planning on doing another school-wide bingo.
Student Council is working on new projects to boost school spirit and trying to come up with safe events. On that note, we will conclude our update on Salisbury Middle School. Thank you for listening and stay healthy.
Thank you, guys. While I have you on, generally, how do you guys feel getting back to school? Everything going all right? We'll start with Alana. How do you feel? You're glad to be back, and how are things going?
I am glad to be back, and it's going a lot easier. Classes are easier in person than they are virtually, and it's easier to do schoolwork in general.
Great. Thank you. Cameron, do you have any comments on your thoughts?
I agree with Alana. It's a lot easier. I feel I'm learning more just because I'm in person and I can ask the questions more freely than having to unmute or type in the chat. So I feel like I am getting a better education.
Great. Yeah, thank you for your points of view there. I appreciate it. Okay, have a good night. And that takes us to Angela Bitar. She's in 10th grade at Salisbury High School.
Hello, I'm Angela. I'm a sophomore at Salisbury, and I'm a representative for student government. So as a little recap for winter sports at the high school, boys basketball has just finished their main season and qualified for district playoffs as well as league playoffs, which start Monday. And after coming off the 0-22 season last year for girls basketball, they played their last game yesterday versus Wilson and qualified for league and district playoffs. Besides people participating in winter sports, other sports like football are holding performance workouts for any interested athlete twice a week. Spring sports are also just around the corner, starting the 8th of March. In terms of the new hybrid scheduling, I just wanted to say that it's much easier and more organized than expected. We all know it was a tough decision, with the risks coming with COVID, of course, and all that. But I think everyone in the building, including myself, can agree that it's just a better feeling than, in Zoom and, like Alana said, having to ask questions, unmute, and just Wi-Fi issues and all of that. But I want to say thank you to the staff and the teachers for doing a great job, especially the teachers managing online and in students at the same time. They're doing a really good job with that. So as well as the cafeteria and everybody, the custodians, everybody doing a great job with that. So I just want to say that we're very thankful for all the teachers and everything they do. And we know it's not easy, but we're really happy with that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your point of view there, Angela. Okay, that takes us to Mackenzie.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Hinkey, and I'm a junior at Salisbury High School, and I'm also representing student government. Here's a little update about our clubs. First off is advisory, and our sophomore class of 2023, which is directed by Mrs. Wilson, has designed class shirts and are having a Thompson's Meat Market fundraiser starting in early March. Our debate team has won a match and also lost a match, and their next competition is next week. Our NHS, or National Honor Society, has helped with tours to welcome students and is having a blood drive scheduled for March 16th. Auditions are also taking place for the spring musical, Little Women, which is planned to take place outside in May, and SGA is hosting our Powder Puff game tentatively on March 3rd. Other things that are happening is that we have started our hybrid model last week despite the snow, and I personally have enjoyed going back to school because I missed seeing my teachers and friends every day, and I found it very refreshing to see them face to face and from over a year now. And I think it's a lot easier learning in school than online because we can ask our questions there and get face to face. And thank you for allowing us to update you on our high school occurrences. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Angela or Mackenzie?
Mackenzie, can you tell us the name of the musical again?
It was The Little Woman.
Oh, the little one. Okay, thank you.
Great. thanks, guys, for your points of view on going back, and we're glad to have you back. So good luck to you, and nothing but the best we wish for you. So so have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you also, Mrs. Bellis, for being here to support your middle school learners as well.
Okay. That takes us to special recognitions. Do we have any special recognitions or presentations, Ms. Feeney Hatton?
We do not, Mr. Gatanis. I would just like to take a moment to invite any of our citizens, if you would like to make a comment in either of the comment portions pertaining to agenda items 1.7 or general comments, to go ahead and add your name and address into the chat.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, that takes us to citizens' inquiries and comments pertaining to agenda items. Do we have anybody, Mr. Taylor, that's interested in speaking?
Nobody has signed up at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve the following minutes? Regular board meeting on January 6th, regular board meeting on January 13th, operations committee meeting on January 13th, and operations committee meeting on February 3rd.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments for those minutes? Okay, seeing none. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, ayes have it. And another statement I have to make, we did have an executive session prior to this meeting that includes security and personnel and law issues that cannot be discussed in public. So I just want to make that statement. Okay, that takes us to payment of bills. We have general fund expenditure on there. We have SFE nutritional services, along with GOB bond proceed funds. So can I have a motion on them to approve them?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, okay. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, that takes us to treasurer's reports. And we have two. We have one for July and one for August. And is that something, Mike, you want to do any explaining before I move that?
So we've been catching up on those treasurer's reports, and we have those available. I know you haven't had a lot of time to review those, but they are available there. And those are accurate cash balances and the expenditures and revenues. And then for the other months, since then, we have just for your review, the cash balances and everything. And the next month, we'll have the remaining ones for you. But we wanted to make sure that you guys had the most up-to-date bank balances for your review.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right. Do I have a motion to approve those 2 months?
So moved. So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, report of the Secretary of the Board, Mr. Taylor.
All right. This evening on the agenda during the operations portion, you'll see 3.1 is the preliminary general fund budget. Tonight is the deadline for the board to pass a preliminary budget. The options are to pass a preliminary budget or to pass a resolution saying that you will not exceed the Act 1 index. By passing the preliminary budget, it gives the board the opportunity to apply for exceptions to the Act 1 index, which primarily what the district would be eligible for would be for special ed expenditures that are growing faster than the index. and potentially the PSERS pension fund expenditures that are growing faster than the Act 1 index. To be eligible, you have to pass a preliminary budget and you have to have a deficit to be eligible. So the process for tonight is really to adopt a preliminary budget. It's not the final form at all. It's the very first step. And with a preliminary budget, we usually are a little bit more cautious and conservative on our revenue estimates, especially in light of the state budget just being proposed in the last week or so. And there's, a lot of uncertainty until they get further along of whether that passes or not. That will greatly impact our revenue. Based on what we were getting this year and what's in the proposed budget, there's a very large variance. So we have to be a little bit cautious in factoring that into our revenue stream at this point. And then our expenditures, this is before we've really made any cuts or reductions to what's been put out there. So it's not the final form of the budget. It's really just the first step. And it's the first step really to make us eligible to apply for exceptions, to give the district all the options available that it may need as we go through the next few months in wrapping up and finalizing the budget. The budget gap this year in the preliminary budget's much smaller than it was last year. So, we're more optimistic this year. And like I said, depending on what the state's budget comes out to, will really determine a lot of how we close that gap. But if the state budget does go through, that significantly helps us close that gap without needing exceptions. But until we know if we have the state budget or not, the board really just needs to have the options available to them as far as applying for exceptions. Does the board have any questions on the preliminary budget process or the vote for tonight? All right. That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Welcome.
Okay, that takes us to committee reports, Curriculum and Technology Committee, Mrs. Klinger.
Hello, good evening. I finally have a report on our last meeting. We had a curriculum meeting on January 25th, and we didn't have one prior to that since October. At the meeting in January, first we viewed an appreciation video that was presented for Board Appreciation Month from SES. Following that, Mr. Muschlitz reviewed the program of studies for the high school for the 2021-22 school year. And he specifically pointed out any changes, additions, or deletions. And much of those changes had to do with the alternate year electives. And he updated some of the course descriptions. We discussed at length at our meeting our return to school for elementary, middle, and high school. We looked at the 21-22, the calendar holidays, and the early dismissal time, I believe, was changed in the elementary school. We had a teaching and learning update from Mr. Brem on for SES. SES was recognized for a behavior and intervention support program. Then Kelly had an update on the high school testing for this year. And Heather gave us a kind of a summary of graduation requirements for the class of 2023, which gives 5 different pathways that the students can choose to follow to graduate. After that, we discussed our next Apple laptop refresh coming up. I think it's at the March ops meeting. We also discussed how the district is working to update and refine our teaching and learning vision and our profile of a graduate. Our next meeting will be this coming Monday, the 22nd at 7 o'clock on Zoom, I would assume. With that, I'd like to move items 2.1 to 2.5. 2.1 is to approve the 21-22 calendar and Act 80 schedule on the calendar. 2.2 is a local holiday resolution for 2021. 2.3 is to approve the high school program of studies, which we went over in depth at our last curriculum meeting. 2.4 is a professional development partnership with Lehigh University. And 2.5 is an addenda agreement in lieu of FAPE between the Salisbury District and Student B Guardians. With that, I'd like to move 2.1 to 2.5.
Mrs. Klinger, I'm going to abstain from 2.4.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. All in favor? I guess
Aye.
I'll
Aye.
Aye.
opposed. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Klinger. Okay, that takes us to Operations Committee. We had a meeting on February 3rd, and the main crux of the meeting was to go over the this year's budget, which we will be voting on tonight. So that's about it with that meeting. And our next meeting will be March 3rd. And with that, I'd like to move items 3.2 through 3.4. 3.2 is district insurance approval, Stepping Stones Group Agreement 3.3, and use of district facilities 3.4. So I'll move that, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments with those items? Okay, seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Now, 3.1, the preliminary general fund budget. We will be doing that by roll call. Mr. Taylor explained that budget, that preliminary budget. We are not locked in. It's a conservative amount that we have plenty of time to adjust that accordingly. So with that, does anybody have any questions or comments regarding that, the budget itself? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Taylor, can we have a roll call for 3.1?
Did we get a second on that motion?
Second.
Maybe you didn't, but okay.
Second. Second.
Now we do.
All right.
All right.
Mr.
Okay.
Frank,
Yes.
Ms. Frick,
Yes.
Ms. Menison,
Yes.
Mr. Ganal,
Yes.
Mr. Hattinger,
Yes.
Ms. Klinger,
Yes.
Ms. Nemitz,
Yes.
Ms. Ziegler,
Yes.
and Mr. Gatanis.
Yes.
And the resolution passes unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay, that takes us to the Personnel Committee. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you. For your review tonight and approval, I have items 4.1 through 4.17, which includes some resignations, some employments, leave, transfers, and also a memorandum of understanding between the district and the support staff union, and substitute additions and deletions. Most of it is normal with transfers and hiring and resignations. So again, for your approval, if I don't have any questions, 4.1 through 4.17.
Second.
Okay. Those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay. Ayes have it. Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Okay, That takes us to the policy committee. Mrs. Frick, do you have a report for the policy?
I do not have new policies at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, we do not have a student activities report. That takes us to 7.1 Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit. Mrs. Ziegler.
I had a meeting last week. We did not have anything special. We had our normal board meeting with personnel items, same as our own district, with resignations and hirings. And we do not have a board meeting in February any later this month. My next meeting won't be until the middle of March.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ziegler.
Yep.
Okay, that takes us to Lehigh Carbon Community College, Mr. DeFrank.
Yes, I had a general board meeting first week of February, and just this Monday, a facilities and finance meeting for Lccc. Two matters I interested the board. There was two capital projects that are nearing completion. One is the wastewater treatment plant, and that is renewing and upgrading that facility that feeds both LCTI and Lccc, and that has been an ongoing project for many years. And with no pun intended, there's great relief that that facility will coming online in March and ends a long saga of capital investment there. Also, we are finishing upgrade to the camera program exterior for all buildings. So when you are on Lcc's campus, you will be on camera. It's first phase of a two-phase project where the second phase will be interior. So to increase the safety and also the access to all facilities at all locations. So I think this is a state-of-the-art type of equipment that will enhance the experience of all students on each of our campuses. And last but not least, and I talked to us before, we have been acknowledged and are an Amazon training facility, 1 to 2 in the nation. And we have had several classes come through, and this will be continuing. The positive for the school is that all equipment is bought by Amazon, state-of-the-art manufacturing, and we will now be accredited with Amazon for giving certification for 1, 2, and 3 levels of accreditation within them for manufacturing expertise. This is a growing trend out in the marketplace where companies are now partnering with colleges, focusing on community colleges to actually train and accredit their own personnel, sending them back to school to get the criteria they need to get the employees to do their work at a very high level. So we had the first 3 classes, and there are 4 more this year coming. So this is a real kudo for Lehigh Community College to be chosen as one of these Amazon learning facilities. And it'd also be a very profitable endeavor for the campus itself. So that's my update and my report.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Very interesting. Okay, that takes us to the LCTI report. Mrs. Nemitz.
Okay, I have a few pieces of information to share. First, I want to note the passing of one of the senior staff members at LCTI, Grace Loeffler, who was the director of academic and special programs. Grace was actually slated to retire this summer, and she fell ill in January and passed away on January the 30th, and her presence will definitely be missed at the school. LCTI, we've also been working our legislative channels to get COVID funding directed towards career and technology schools, because they have been left out of COVID funding so far. And there was one bill that went through the House and the Senate and was about to be approved by the governor last week that would allow for, I think, about $20 million of COVID relief funding to go to career and technology schools. So that's a big win. And then just one more note that LCTI will celebrate its 50th anniversary this fall, and preparations are underway for whatever sort of celebration we can have safely. And then I also have one motion for us to approve. I move that we approve the 2021-2022 LCTI budget as recommended by the LCTI Joint Operation Committee on January 27th in the amount of $28,976,100. Salisbury's portion of that budget is $1,095,068.96.
Thank you, Mrs. Nimitz. Okay, Mrs. Nimitz moved that, and now we'd be looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. That's a sad story, Sarah, that somebody ready to retire.
And it all happened so quickly too. It was just devastating.
Yeah. If you make arrangements to get them a card or some sort of sympathy card to them. All right, thank you, Sarah. Okay, that takes us to PSBA Legislative Policy Council, Mrs. Frick.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
As I was listening to Sarah, I found it interesting that the funding, the COVID funding went through for the LCTI type schools, so that was a good thing. As far as new legislation regarding our school district, I didn't see anything new. We are waiting to see how the progress on the budget process is moving, if it's moving forward on the governor's proposed budget, which would perhaps, as Mike mentioned, bring us some extra funding this year, which would be needed and welcome. But we're not making any plans. I think at this time you don't want to bet on that. You always want to, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I did happen to, in my reading, run across a letter which I thought made for interesting bedfellows, where a group of 9 organizations in Pennsylvania, including the PSEA, and the PSBA and Pennsylvania, I want to say Board of Health, wrote together a letter to the governor's office, all in proposing and promoting that teaching staff and other school employees get pushed up on the list for getting their vaccinations. I think most teachers, if there's anything extra as far as any kind of personal health related thing, most teachers are in the 1B list, and then the 1A list has sort of changed a bit. So this letter was just interesting that all these different groups got together saying, please change this, please push up the school employees to get their COVID vaccinations early. So I thought that was interesting. And the other thing I thought was interesting, and then I gave it a try today, was there's a My PSBA app which you can download called My PSBA Mobile. And next time I go to read up on the latest legislation, I can just open up my app and read it on the go. So that is my report, George.
Thank you, Ms. Frick.
You're welcome.
Okay. That takes us to the solicitor's report. Mrs. Roddick, do you have anything to report?
I don't, but did we have to move something for PSBA? I think we missed something, George.
Okay, 7.5. Okay. Do we have something to move on that?
Yes, George, it's
Yes, the
Is
PSBA
it up?
Principles for Governance. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Mrs. Frick will say you moved that, correct?
No, I didn't. I didn't know to move it, but I can move that.
Yeah, can you please?
Yep. I'd like to move number 7.5 PSBA Principles for Governance and Leadership.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, I see no questions.
Okay,
All right.
all right, thank you. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Roddick. Okay, now, Ms. Roddick, do you have a report, a solicitor's report?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that takes us to the leadership team report. Ms. Sweeney Henton.
You're muted.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen quickly with just a few items for tonight. First of all, I want to start off with some thank yous to celebrate some of our staff members. You may have seen these on Facebook. We're making an intentional effort to try to celebrate some of our staff members and promote the work that our staff members are doing to support our learners. So first up here is National School Counseling Week. We have 5 counselors in the district, and this is Mrs. Stokes. National School Counseling Week was February 1st to 5th, and our counselors work to help our students achieve school success, plan for a career, maintain academic, social, emotional wellness as well. They provide a lot of opportunities for our learners and our important resource. This is Ms. Hill Bodie. We also have Mr. Dorward, Mrs. Moyer, and Mr. Anderson. So thank you to our school counselors and to all the community members who commented and interacted with those posts. It's great to see that feedback for our counselors. Additionally, February is Love the Bus Month. And as we were bringing our learners back to our face-to-face environment, it's great to see our buses back on our campuses and on our roads. Don't hesitate to wave and give them a honk and thank our bus drivers for being with us. Also, thank you to Paragon, our partners, Ross Leibensberger, and Director of Operations, Nancy Kern. So appreciative of their work. One more here. This week, we're celebrating Random Acts of Kindness Week. It's been nice to see some random acts of kindness across the district. Somebody dropped off a Starbucks mocha latte decaf for me this afternoon, so that was kind of nice. And I've been spreading some cheer to others. I know across the district, we've had some extra kindness, and also encourage each of us to be extra kind to ourselves. So drop a nice note to someone, send a quick email, let our staff know how much you appreciate them. Our community members know how much we appreciate them. So making a conscious effort to celebrate each other. Want to provide a quick update with the Salisbury Education Foundation, and I'll also invite our president, Mrs. Glenister, to share something and say a few words. Would you like to start, Becky?
Sure, I can say we're always looking for new people to be involved with this. We're a pretty small group, but it's something we've been able to contribute to the district. We're also looking for matching funding, because that's a program that we offer, and you know more about that than I do, Lynn, but it goes directly to programs in the school district, which is great. And we also qualified for that EITC program, which businesses can take advantage of. And if you need more information about that, you can get in touch with us. But yes, we're always looking for anybody else who'd like to get involved. Contact either Lynn or me, and we'd be happy to let you know how to do that.
If you see grant opportunities that maybe the district is not eligible for, but a 501(c) is eligible for, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always looking for those grant opportunities, and we'd like to share a couple of those with you tonight. Becky and I worked on a Lehigh County COVID grant, and we were granted $106,000. This money was used within the district for some additional technology for live streaming. We also used it for some vast expenses, some technology subscriptions, and other supplies and resources. So thanks to Becky for her work on that. And if you see things that we may be eligible for, the foundation may be eligible for, don't hesitate to reach out. We also reached out to Crayola and got some materials for our kindergarten teachers. And also Mrs. Pauling's been working with our kindergarten staff and intervention staff at the elementary school and Mr. Brem to create some, I guess for lack of a better word, a to-go bag with some materials and some activities with the purpose of helping our kindergarteners become ready and focused for the fall. And to come in and get ready for that social emotional learning and play and academic learning as well. And that's my report for tonight.
Great. Thank you. And Becky, thank you for your assistance with that grant. How long have you been on the board?
Oh, Lynn, I don't remember. When did you persuade me to do that a few years ago?
When did I twist your arm? Was that?
Yeah. I think that's what that's called. Yes, yes.
I'm just thinking about at this rate, you're setting a very high benchmark for yourself. You land a $106,000 grant, and you've only been on the board for a few months. So every few months that'll come in handy. Thank you.
No, that was great. I mean, that was one good side effect of the whole COVID experience. And Lynn saw that, saw that was available. I'm really glad we were able, and they spent every dime, right?
Yeah. And thank you to Kelly and Chris Smith also to work towards, what do we need? Kelly sent a survey to staff members to try to better understand what our needs were and our leadership team. So it was definitely a group effort.
Great. So thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Kelly. That was great. So thanks again. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Feeney-Henton. All right, that takes us to new business. Does anybody have any new business? I have a few things, but I'd like to ask the board if they have anything prior to me going on my rant. Not seeing any. Okay. I guess first of all, I'd like to thank the entire staff. What has been accomplished this year with all the challenges, obviously the big one's COVID, and with all the snow, I mean, every day was another challenge. And I'd just like to thank everybody, the administrative staff, the teachers, the support staff, I know I don't want to leave anybody out. Like you said, the bus drivers, Paragon, the volunteers, IAs, help me out, Lynn, if I'm missing anybody.
Maintenance.
Custodial
guys.
Our techs, our families, our parents. There's been a lot of last minute changes, and people have been very flexible and across the board and across our Salisbury community.
Yes, thank you, everybody, for that. And on a less important note, but it's very much appreciated. Thank you for the board appreciation gift. I don't know how many of them got one. I got mine, and I just want to thank the district for distributing them. And that takes us to one of the items being, Miss Klinger and myself, we've been attending PTO meetings, and Sarah's involved in that, of course, too. And they just floor me, this group. I'm impressed by what they do for the kids in the community. And they do a tremendous job with fundraising, and they're a bunch. They think innovatively. They don't let COVID slow them down. They aren't sayers; they're doers. It's just phenomenal what that group of people do, and we're fortunate to have them. They stay focused. They don't look at why we can't get stuff done. They look at how we can get things done. So I just want to thank everybody involved with that. It's a phenomenal group of people. Now, last meeting, we had discussed the potential for us going back to live board meetings in person. So there are a number of things involved here. I guess, first of all, do we have consensus to go back? Do we have flexibility relative to some members that may not want to go back in person, giving them the option of Zooming? And also, we're interested in having the public be involved. So Lynn and Christine, I don't know if you could input on some of those questions before we started a conversation, or if you want to chime in after we start discussion. It's up to you.
Well, just a couple of points. One question we were asked was whether or not committee meetings can be Zoom and board meetings be face-to-face. And our answer to that is yes. All meetings obviously still must be advertised, and you must provide members of the public the opportunity to comment at those meetings. There's no requirement that, you know, all meetings be Zoom or all meetings be in person. If the board has a face-to-face meeting, can some board members Zoom in for convenience? And if so, how many? In the past, there used to be a rule that you needed a majority physically present. And so long as you had a majority physically present, other people could participate remotely, whether that was by telephone, whether that was by video, so long as every person can understand and hear every other person and still provide the opportunity for debate, comment, etc. Since COVID, quite frankly, that rule has kind of gone out the window. So because we're all operating remotely now due to the social distancing requirements. If you have a face-to-face meeting, can it also be held via Zoom so the public can participate virtually only? And the answer to that is yes. Some districts are already doing that. And then some districts are also live streaming where the board may be in person instead of necessarily Zoom. Some are doing it via
Facebook or YouTube, right?
YouTube was the one I was thinking of. Yes, thank you. And then if the board has a face-to-face meeting and the public is invited to participate in person, and the board Zooms to allow more public to participate, would the board be within its rights to only allow public comment from the in-person participants? And you know, that's a little bit more unclear. Our real lawyer answer on that is it depends. We wouldn't recommend doing that. If you're going to allow people to participate via Zoom and in person, then we would recommend that you permit members of the public to give public comment in person and or via Zoom, not requiring them to be physically present. So those were a couple of the issues that we had hashed out behind the scenes for you guys.
Okay. Lynn, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think we want to find a solution that works for everybody and also allows our public to still engage, because we've increased our public engagement and opportunity for comment, and we welcome that and want to see that continue.
Okay. All right. I guess first thing, thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Christine. I guess first things first, what's the general feeling of the board relative to coming back in person? Does anybody want to start off the conversation?
George, I have a question for Christine. We have Jerry, who comes from Kings Fry, that is our solicitor for Lccc. And he informed us, as the governor's order through the 23rd or the 24th of February, we have to stay remote, and are looking for if he's going to extend that or not. Do you have any update on that? Because that could make a lot of what we're doing here a moot point if he extends that order.
Yeah, I don't today. I don't have any updated information. But obviously, if we do get that, I would share that with you immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I just asked that we have to keep an eye on that, because if he does extend that, it really is not our decision anymore. We just have to abide by that.
Correct.
So barring that, Sam, while you're talking, borrowing that requirement, what's your thought?
As long as we are able to accommodate both board members and the public that want to be in person or remote, I think that's fine. I think until everyone gets vaccinated, we need to make sure that we, are receptive to each person's feelings or concerns about being in person or not, so they can attend. As long as we can respect each person's preference, and they can either attend via Zoom or in person until each and every person is vaccinated. I think we have to take that in consideration. And then the other point is, do we have any requirement or consideration that people be vaccinated that don't come in person for assurances to other people that may attend, whether it's a board member or the public? What is going to be our requirement for attendance? I know work is looking at that in regards to bringing people back on campus, and those that are going to get vaccinated and ours that may not, and how they come up with a policy with that. So maybe something we want to consider as well in regards to attendance. And that's a legal quagmire as we get into that, if we do or don't, but it's something to debate and discuss. Just throwing something out there for us to consider. And that's my 2 cents, George. I look for other board members' points.
Yeah, thank you. Lynn, before we hear from other board members, has it been decided if we do decide to go back, would it be back to the boardroom? And do we have the ability to social distance in that room?
So probably for the 10 of us, 11 of us, we do have that ability. We'd have to extend the table. But in terms of adding public in that room particularly, that would be more difficult. If we were going to have public in person, we'd probably need to move to the middle school. Another option would be to have board in person and public attend via Zoom. You know, it's a little bit of a technical piece to figure out what's the best way for that to work and how do we manage it. But we could obviously figure that out.
If we do decide to go down this road, how much time would you need to get all the technologically, the challenges with the technical part of it? Do you need any long period of time, or is that something that could be taken care of pretty quickly?
I think we could take care of it pretty quickly. What we do need to make sure is we have the meetings advertised appropriately. So that might be some time, and that would be to Mike to figure that out.
Okay. Can I hear from any other board members? Any other thoughts?
George, here's just my 2 cents on it. And it kind of goes hand in hand with my my vote in return to school. Is this is actually a little more not extreme, but this is a form that we've been using now that's been working pretty well. I would assume, I would think, between everybody here on the board so far. And we're not worried about the socialization side of things that we were like in a return to school. So if we have a forum here that works well, we can accommodate as many people in the public as Zoom will allow us to. I just don't, at this point in time, I don't see the point in, with so many people not vaccinated yet, why open ourselves up to an opportunity that could potentially be a mass spreading event. That's my concern as far as returning, is if we have something that's working pretty well right now, I don't necessarily feel the need to fix something that's not broken just yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
if I can, thanks, Joe. I'm sorry, go ahead, Christine.
If I can just jump in, I don't think the board has a legal ability to limit members of the public to only those who obtain vaccinations at your public meetings. You know, at anything that all of the required immunizations, whether it's among staff members and or students, is set by the public school code. It's imposed by statute, not by board policy. So I would just like to throw that out. I think that if you would make that requirement, you could be running afoul of some First Amendment rights, right to assembly, right to free speech if they want to participate publicly. I think you can continue to impose the screening system that's in effect, which is your honor system. Do you have a temperature? Have you been in contact with somebody who has COVID? That I think you can do, but I think you would be running into some major legal challenges if you would try to impose a vaccination requirement on attendees. I just want to put that out there before. I think that's something important for you to consider.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So what you're reading between the lines, Christine, what you're saying is, if we would go down this road, one potential would be to leave it up to the individual board members, whether they want to Zoom or be there personally. And it looks like it might be going down the road that all the public would have to be done virtually.
You could still have the public, if you move your board meetings to a space that can accommodate a large amount of people, like say your auditorium or something like that. The board members could still participate in social distance, and you can still have members of the public social distancing and giving those screenings before they come in. So you can still do it in person and adhere to the public, the social distancing requirements. I don't think you have to limit yourself to that. My comment goes to mandating vaccinations.
Christine,
Okay,
question.
so in other words,
question.
you're saying if we wanted to, I'm sorry, Joe, what were you gonna say?
Do we run into any concern about if we say we do move it to the middle school, there's still going to be a max number there, no matter where you go, and say that number is 150, and the 151st person shows up to the door, and we could say, hey, you can't come in. And under normal circumstances, we don't run up against that number, but there have been quite a few meetings over the past year and a half that we've come to quite large numbers. Now I understand that you could probably make it both virtual and in person, but for those individuals that have showed up for in person, and now all of a sudden we say we've hit our max number, do we run in? Is there any concern there as far as us limiting their access to the board meetings?
I think what has happened in some other districts is then if say you're in the auditorium, then those people could somehow, if they can listen to what is going on. There have been some districts where they would put the spillover into the lobby, and they had a TV on the wall where the members of the public could still be physically present in the space, but not physically present in the actual boardroom. So there are opportunities for that. That's my initial reaction right now, is that great response to it? No, but I also think that we have a tendency to know when our meetings, when we have a hot topic that's going to be on the agenda and or large crowds that are going to be coming. And we maybe, even be able to ask the public, okay, here's our circumstance. Can you let us know if you want to appear in person? So you kind of have an idea as to whether or not you want to set up those other arrangements, limiting the capacity, but not prohibiting them from still participating. Does that make sense?
Yes. Joe, I'm glad you brought that up, because you beat me to my concern. My concern is we go back publicly. First of all, the logistics for someone to mark off or put chairs in certain spaces in the middle school, and then at the door, oh, we reached the max number. So is there a way that you would need to register to attend? Could be a possibility. But that's my biggest concern is.
Yeah,
and the only way I can think of to do it is you need to register in advance if you want to come in person. But Zoom, you're right. Zooms are working for right now. We have some time. It looks like we have to wait anyway to the end of the month before we could start meeting in person. But that's my concern, that we can be spaced out and still have our public have access.
One more thought. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on this either way, but I'm also wondering if we have an in-person meeting with public attendees in one of our schools in an evening, how much extra work is that for our custodians to then get that space ready for school the next morning?
Right, Sarah, that's what I meant. Like, how do they mark off the floor, or mark off, if it's the auditorium, how do you block off seats?
Or clean it afterwards.
That's a logistics that would have to really be worked out and spend a lot of time.
I'm more worried about the cleaning on the back end of it.
Yeah, I mean, our administrators and our faculty and our staff are kind of working at 100% right now. I mean, 110%. I mean, I could see that every time I look at Lynn or talk to Lynn on the phone. She's got 1,000 things going at once. And I'm not trying to be Johnny Raincloud here and pull us away from in-person events, but I'm also trying to think about the practicality of it, of asking our administrators, our faculty, our staff to do more. When we have a program here that's working well, to get the job done, for lack of a better term.
I think that's what I would say too. Plus, I don't want to give up the illusion that I only exist in the Zoom box, because I've never been at a meeting in person. So I don't want people,
Wow, I didn't realize that.
I've only been here, so they don't know if I'm actually real. But yeah, no, I agree. I think it's this does seem to work, and it eliminates all those complications that we just brought up in a 10-minute discussion, and there's probably more that we haven't thought of potentially. I mean, I guess maybe my question would be what will be the real advantage to doing it in person at this point, at this point with what's still going on? Is there anything anybody can think of that we can accomplish, that we can't really accomplish this way?
I think a couple of board members expressed concern that, we expected teachers, staff, and students to go back in person, and we aren't ourselves doing the same thing. And I totally agree with what Joe brought up. With students, it's the social impact on them staying home is quite prevalent, and us staying home are, other than the fact that I'm going to be saving on deodorant and aftershave, joining in person, but nevertheless, I think it's a case of like us basically practicing what we directed the district to do, and I think that was the feeling. But me personally, I'm going to go with the will of the board. I don't care one way or the other, and I don't see anything more than meeting in person with the board. And I think we would basically be forced to having all the attendees from the public be Zoom, because I think it's just to have everybody present there just adds to the complications. So that's my feeling. But if anybody hasn't chimed in yet, and they feel otherwise, or just let your voices be heard.
I just want to say something quick. I did say this last time, that I thought, well, I didn't want to be contradictory or hypocritical. I want to say something about that I send the children in person and the teachers in person, but then I wasn't willing to go in person. But really, the arguments that you made tonight make a lot of sense to me, that it really is not comparing apples to apples when we're comparing a board meeting to going to school. So therefore, I feel like that's not important, how it looks, if it looks contradictory or not, because I think what you want to do is base your decision on what makes the best sense. And the thing that I've liked best about Zoom, well, there's a couple of things, but the non-personal thing that I've liked best about Zoom is that we have gotten such participation from the public. And I think that being on Zoom has made it much easier. I mean, babysitters didn't have to be gotten, you could take turns, you can take a break, you can stay for a short while, and you don't have to get up in the middle of the meeting and everybody knows you've left. So I think that's awesome that we've been able to have the public join us and be able to be participants far more than I've ever seen since I've been on the school board. So my mind has been changed, and I'm definitely would like to lean to staying with Zoom as long as we have to.
Okay. So I think what it comes down to, unless I'm hearing that we just keep the status quo right now. And if anybody feels otherwise, let me know. But I think at this point, we should just table the idea and just stick with what we're doing now.
George, one point for you for consideration is just from an observation. LCC for a while, due to spacing in our boardroom, had to have half the board members via Zoom and half in person. And I can tell you a hybrid is the worst of both, because it was very challenging for the people that were on Zoom, because they had to do it from a laptop looking at the whole room to really hear everything and participate. So as we go forward, these Zoom meetings are fantastic, and I think the public gets a really good interface and work really well. But I don't think if they participate via Zoom, how we may do it, they'll get the same quality of sound and interface. So I think we should consider all or nothing, either stay in Zoom or go all in person. It may be challenging to put the two together, just for something that maybe our staff and our IT can look at. But from personal experiences and other board members or trustees or on LCC, it was very challenging to be a hybrid and do both. And it was not a good medium. We did it because we had to. But now that we're totally remote, the quality of the meetings are equal to ours. They're fantastic. And no one at LCC wants to change from this until we go 100% back in public and do the hybrid again. Just for consideration, because we haven't done it and we may not know what it's like, but it's one of those things where hybrid is the worst of both, not the best of both. Just for consideration as we look.
Yep.
Sam and Georgia, one of the things that we could do is ask our 5th grade teachers how they're handling it, because that's exactly what they're doing in their classrooms right now. And so they could give you, we as we move forward, best practices, bad practices. They're living in it on a day-to-day basis now too. So I think we can always, I mean, we can pick their brains and say, how do we make this work if we need to, when we need to.
And it's really 5th grade through high school students or teachers are doing that. And it does come with its challenges, no doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, and as another data point, the JOC at LCTI, we've been meeting virtually since March, and we have not even talked about coming back together in person yet.
I like how the community is it's much easier for them to be involved with the way we have it, because all my years on the board, we never had 200 people, and I think it's something that we might consider doing it permanently like this, even when, the COVID problem ends. But nevertheless, I think right now, the way it stands, the way we're doing it right now is the way you should keep it. And we'll just stick with what we've got. All right. Thanks, everybody. Okay, that takes us to, unless anybody has any other comments or on other subjects. Okay, that takes us to citizens' inquiries and comments in general. Do we have any, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, we have one, and that's Michelle Martucci.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Martucci. I live at 1003 Public Road in Bethlehem. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to the board members. Thank you to the Salisbury Elementary staff. Thank you for the admin, any volunteer, anyone who was involved with the drop off and pickup at the Salisbury Elementary School. I wanted to say that I feel like it's a lot of cars. So that's a lot of drop off and pickups for you guys to be handling. And I think everything is going wonderfully. I think everyone is doing a great job. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for that. And I also would like to take a moment to say thank you for allowing our children to go back to school if they'd like to. I can tell you that my daughter has been all smiles since she's been back. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate it here in our family.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Martucci. Anybody else, Mr. Taylor?
No, that is it.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'd like to state the upcoming meetings, and that would be curriculum meeting will be on February 22nd. That's on Monday. That will be Zoom, of course, and operations committee meeting is March 3rd. We have next regular board meeting is March 17th. And the next curriculum meeting after that is March 29th. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved. Second.
Okay. All right. Those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank
Take
you.
care, guys. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Stay safe.
Everyone.
Care.